welcome to the ATFX Bank of Japan preview. So we're about 24 hours away from the latest Bank of Japan rate update and statement and press conference. And it is due to be a live event in terms of the market is split nearly 50-50 on whether we see a rate hike or whether they keep rates on hold in Japan for the next month or so. And therefore, we are seeing very big moves in the yen. We're anticipating some strong moves in the yen. Now, one of the interesting things about the Bank of Japan coming tomorrow is only a few hours or basically a session and a half afterwards, we're also going to get the Federal Reserve update, which, as we know, has a big influence on all global markets. As most people in the market will know, the yen has appreciated massively in the last couple of weeks for a number of reasons. So we were talking about yen intervention from the Bank of Japan, from the Ministry of Finance for a number of weeks on this move all the way up. As you can see, from mid-June, we were sort of sitting around 157 and it crept up all the way up to these recent 34-year highs, literally at 162. And then it's taken a couple of big moves down. Now, we know that the Japanese authorities did intervene. But what's happened since then is we've seen some decent moves in the big dollar, in the US dollar, and that's taken us down to much lower levels. And as you can see here, dollar yen sitting around 154.08. Now, I don't think there's many people in the market that expect to see dollar yen around these levels in, say, 24 hours, or let's be more accurate, probably about 25 or 26 hours. Or certainly the limited volatility that we've probably seen over the last couple of sessions. It was very, very quiet yesterday in terms of data updates and any global macroeconomic updates in the market. But this week is chock-a-block with them. And the Bank of Japan, especially for yen traders, is obviously paramount for everyone's attention. So what we're looking at, what the market's looking at, it is literally 50-50 split. And if we do get a hike, it's probably not going to be 25 basis points that we see from other major central banks, probably be about 15. They have very well scheduled in that they will be indicating, and they're going to give us the details on how much bond buying they're going to ease back on. So that is also seen as kind of a rate hike to certain parts of the market as well. But what we're going to be looking at here is like the potential for moves in dollar yen around that event. So two parts of the event. You've got the rate decision, so whether they're going to hike or not, and basically it's whether they hike 15 basis points or not. Two, the statement, which will give us an indication of what the Bank of Japan are thinking, and three, we then have the press conference later in the day, which will then, that normally adds a lot more volatility. And because this is such a live event, we're expecting even more volatility. Because of the moves we've seen recently in the yen, we've seen even more. So it's a massive event. We're sitting here around about that 154 level. Resistance coming in. This is just a short-term trend line resistance on this hourly chart. It's just above the recent high. Don't expect that to be around there. We'll probably be adjusting later. Previous high here about 154.70, and don't forget we've seen such big moves in the yen. We are expecting extended percentage moves on this line. So if we do get a hike, do expect the knee-jerk reaction to be downside in dollar yen, and support will come in here. Trend line's coming in at 152.16, recent low just there, 151.93. Expect that level to be challenged, and then we're going to be looking to see whether we can extend that move the next extension. And as I said, we will see percentage moves on the back of this because yen has been so volatile down to these levels here, sub 150. In my head, I feel that 150 is a little bit of a happy. And they could easily get that there if they hike. Now, if we don't get a hike, I do expect a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to the top side, so yen selling, and then it will come into how much of this bond buying easing they will do, and how much that will support the yen in the market. And then we're going to be looking at the forward guidance we do get from the Bank of Japan. So if they're coming out and they're being very hawkish and they tell us we will get a hike, then I think we do start to see that appreciation. Obviously, if we get a hike, and then we get more hawkish forward guidance, I think we should then be looking under this 150 key psych level and down to these sort of support lines that are coming in. He says, trying to get a little flash up there, but it's about 148.50. So these are the kind of moves we could see. Now, the opposite side of this, the contrarian version, is we could see a nasty move back to the top side. We don't get the hike. and we get kind of a disappointing number in the bond, and then, in that case, and maybe even a slightly more dovish than expected, which would be a wait on data kind of Bank of Japan, then we could see us like challenging back up to these levels. And as you can see, they could be big moves to the top side. The final thing we have to take into account is the length of these trades. Now, they are going to be sharp and they are going to be fast. And what longer term traders really want to do before they can lock in their longer term positions is we're going to want to see what the other side of this equation does, and that's the Fed. That comes, as I said, about a session and a half later. Short term, there will be some excellent trading opportunities, and it will be on the back of the cut or lack of cut, and it will be on what's talked about in the market. So traders will be in and they will be out very quickly. For longer term positions, if we get indication from the Bank of Japan and then later on the Fed, the ideal scenario, the perfect storm for dollar yen bears and probably the BOJ, is that we get a hike from the BOJ. They are relatively hawkish, and then we get a dovish Fed meeting. We're not expecting a cut from the Fed, but we get a dovish indication that locks in that rate cut in September, and then bang, that's when we're going to start to see these moves that can come down. They'll crash through this support just under 152. We'll look down under 150, and it could even extend further. So it's going to be a fascinating day tomorrow. Good luck with your trading, but the BOJ is going to be one where I think we're going to see exceptional volatility. Thanks very much.